will include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yay, yay!
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the business is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify with you and God in time, our best align.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days and midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in the hands of the greatest artists. I see it in the waters, I see it in our daughters. They could be bridges that know no borders. For so long, them folks try to ignore us. So we at the ballot boxes to vote for us. Peace to Stacey and the people of Georgia, who galvanize so that we can move forward. Steps are ordered with the presence of mind. Everything's more beautiful in time.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
You are listening to and streaming More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent, joining you live in afternoon drive time right here in LA. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. All you got to do is type in Dr. Nii-Q. DRNIIQ, and I popped right on up, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or you can just tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580 if you're feeling fancy like that. And that way we'll stay connected. Last but not least, subscribe to a More Perfect Union podcast. That way you don't miss some of your favorite shows, some of your favorite conversations that I know you're just itching to be able to share with your circle. How about that? And so I just want to take a minute to recognize that we are 7 weeks away from the Black Children's Book Week. That is February 22nd through February 28th. You can go to blackchildrenbookweek.org to get in the blocks and get prepared for that. We're looking forward to having authors of Black children's books on. Some people want to ban books. Some people want to ban Black history. Some people are about that life. We're not. And so, you can believe it based on the folks that we have had and will have on the show. All right. Now it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, the feds are fighting with the DOJ, and it could hurt prospects for more interest rates cuts. Listen closely, because this may impact your wallet. NBC News is reporting that the Justice Department's criminal investigation of the Federal Reserve and Chair Jerome Powell's willingness to fight back are already shaking up Wall Street. But Main Street, where we reside, could feel shockwaves too. The legal showdown makes it less likely that the Fed will lower interest rates this year, as according to a number of analysts that follow this stuff really closely. Lower rates could translate into lower borrowing costs for consumers and businesses, helping to support economic growth and the labor market. And so, if you are thinking about going to get, that washing machine or that refrigerator, or you're in the market for a new car, or you may be shopping around for a new home, anything that may require borrowing money, um, the prospects of that getting less expensive to borrow money as opposed to more expensive, or staying the same, that's what's at stake here. Powell could potentially remain chair for longer than expected, as Senator Tom Tillis, the Republican of North Carolina, and Elizabeth Warren, they both said the Senate Banking Committee should block votes on any Trump administration nominees to the Fed as the investigation plays out. It also is more likely that a few other members of the board who were appointed during the Biden administration will remain too. If this happens, the eventual shakeup of the committee that sets interest will almost certainly result in fewer cuts than would otherwise have been the case. And so, this is an FAO situation that impacts all of us. The president's sort of obsession, over the Fed and wanting to control the Fed and wanting to bully them into lowering interest rates. It's now brought us to this place where there is a criminal investigation that's been launched by the Department of Justice. The White House has said we had no part in this, but what do you think? Moving along, USA Today is reporting that ICE agent, the ICE agent who shot Renee Good, has received a $10,000 donation from Bill Ackman. If you're wondering, well, who's Bill Ackman? Bill Ackman, billionaire Bill Ackman. He's one of more than 8,000 people who have donated to an unverified online fundraiser to support the federal immigration agent who fatally shot 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis last week. As of this morning, a GoFundMe campaign created by Clyde Emmons had raised, get this, $374,553, including this $10,000 donation from the hedge fund billionaire. Another $5,000 anonymous donation also topped the list, created on January 9th, just 3 days ago. The fundraiser aims to aid the potential legal defense of Jonathan Ross, an immigration and customs enforcement removal officer who's based in Minnesota. The fundraiser has not yet been verified as of January 12th, according to GoFundMe. They say our trust and safety team is currently reviewing all fundraisers related to the shooting in Minneapolis to ensure they're compliant with our terms of service. We're also working to gather additional information from organizers of the fundraiser. During the review process, all funds remain safely held by their payment processor. And so, what's that about? The ICE agent who shot an unarmed 37-year-old mother of three in the head while she was in her car driving away from the scene. So there are people out there that say, oh, that guy right there, let's invest our money in his legal defense. What is that about? Ackman is the 59-year-old founder of Pershing Square Capital Management. And as of today, his net worth is nearly $9.3 billion. That's according to Forbes. So there's a lot more of those $10,000 donations that he could easily pay. That's pocket change for him. $10,000 donations. And, you got to wonder, is this a signal that he's sending to ICE agents across the country that, if you get caught up in some stuff, don't worry about it. I'll put something on it in terms of your legal defense. He said, I ain't gonna put millions into it, but I'll put $10,000 on it. It's cold, ain't it? It's cold. It's real cold. Moving along, Americans are taking a drastic step to deal with the rising Obamacare bills. USA Today reporting that months after she signed up for health insurance in mid-2025, there's a Houston resident named Mila Clark who ran the numbers and knew that the Affordable Care Act coverage, it wouldn't be an option for 2026. And so the 36-year-old small business owner, she couldn't find a plan as inexpensive as $350 a month. That was the plan that she had in 2025. And, the COVID era subsidies that made Obamacare health insurance less expensive, they expired in December, leaving folks like Mila Clark. They left her and millions of others with sharply higher insurance bills in 2026. I'm already starting to hear from friends who are experiencing the sticker shock themselves in terms of the increased cost of their health care. The extra costs were too much for Clark, in addition to costly monthly premiums. And so she spent hundreds each month on insulin and an insulin pump and a continuous glucose monitor and medical appointments to treat her type 1 diabetes. And instead of signing up for the ACA plan, Clark, you know what she did? She married her partner, Greg. They had a hastily planned courthouse ceremony on December 1st so she could be added to his corporate health insurance. This is an example of some of the drastic measures that our fellow Americans are feeling compelled to take in order to get affordable health care. Ain't nothing perfect about that. If anything, it underscores the work we have to do to continue to reach to build a more perfect union. When we come forward, we're switching gears. We're delighted to welcome back to the show our resident immigration law expert, Alan Orr. We're going to talk about the state of Minnesota. A little bit of news made a few hours ago where the state of Minnesota and the twin cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, they're now suing the federal government to stop enforcement. We're going to talk to Alan about the prospects of this effort being successful and more. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Alan Orr when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me! National news, the consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and always delighted to welcome back our resident immigration law expert, Alan Orr. He is the founder of Orr Immigration Law, and much sought out. Happy New Year. Welcome back to the show.
Happy New Year. Happy to be here.
So first things first, a few hours ago, we learned that Minnesota and the Twin Cities, they're suing the federal government to stop this immigration crackdown. The state joined Minneapolis and St. Paul. They said that the Department of Homeland Security is violating the First Amendment and other constitutional protections. And this lawsuit is seeking a temporary restraining order to halt enforcement action. What's the likelihood that they may succeed with this? Is this a Hail Mary pass, or do they have a strong argument?
So first we should deal with what we're talking about. This is a first impression type thing. So you don't know what's going to happen because you have to see what sort of happens through the court system. So it's hard to sort of say specifically what may happen. The question is, do they have a claim? And the answer is yes. And it's not just them. It's also Illinois also has filed a lawsuit against the government, sort of rolling back and saying that what the activity that they're doing. So here's a couple of things. The government says that they want safety, but in both occurrences in both states, they're not doing safety. They're making things unsafe, arresting United States citizens, and causing upheaval for a population of what they're only supposed to be going after undocumented people. So as we think about policing and ICE, let's start with the foundation. ICE was started or created in 2003 after September 11th. They are not the police. They are not the National Guard. Their jurisdiction are individuals in this country who are undocumented. Everything else is out of their general mandate. So this, what they're doing in these different areas, door-to-door police stops, are outside of their control and generally unconstitutional in the way that law enforcement generally works. So let's think of that for just a second. We have put more ICE officers to arrest people who are undocumented in a state that has around 1% undocumented, when Florida, Georgia, Tennessee have around 3% undocumented. So if you were really looking for undocumented people, the amount of people you put in that state would sort of match the amount of undocumented workers in that state. Mm-hmm. In addition, now there's around 3,000, I guess, people there from ICE. That's more than the total police force of the state. So when you have these kind of clear indicators
of the state
that sort of speak to you that say, this isn't about safety, this is about something else. And that's what I think will make the case pretty strong in court, plus the number of violations. That's why we were saying before, and we've said on the show, record it. All of that recorded becomes evidence, and that evidence is the indicator that they're not doing what they say they were doing. They're stopping people because they're black and brown. They're stopping people because they speak Spanish. All those things are in violation of the Constitution and will not hold muster.
Part of what we're hearing from the Homeland Security Department, or a spokesperson that accused Minnesota officials of ignoring public safety, and they're saying that the president's job is to protect the American people and enforce the law, no matter who your mayor, government, or state attorney general is. The spokesperson for Homeland Security went on to say that's what the Trump administration is doing. We have the Constitution on our side, and we look forward to proving that in court. That flies in the face of what you just said.
Well, not only does it fly in the face of it, it's not consistent with the narrative, right? Because only the state of Minnesota that you're sort of focused. So here's also part of the problem as a lawyer. Part of what the Trump administration has done is they've run their mouth too much. So it's indicated what the purpose is behind the activities that they're taking and at specific groups. So all the stuff about Somalis, all the stuff about fraud that happened many years ago, they've sort of put in a spotlight. So it's disingenuous for them to say they're doing safety when before they went in, they didn't have any of these occurrences. There wasn't any widespread anything that was happening at the time. Crime was down. As a matter of fact, there'd only been 2 deaths in that area, and one of them was by this ICE officer. So therefore, that's not consistent in the fact pattern. Sure, you do in general, and what people need to divorce themselves from is this narrative. The government is making narratives because the facts don't work in their position, and these narratives are sending people into this moment where the sky is falling when the sky is not falling. The sky wasn't falling in Venezuela before they took it over. The sky isn't falling in Greenland. And in none of these states was the sky falling with regards to undocumented immigrants. Sure, there were undocumented immigrants there, but there was no wide overspread crime or peeping over the streets. We're creating this drama to sort of say you need to meet it with this challenge. The challenge is what creates the drama. And then you say you're doing regular law enforcement. When it's selective law enforcement, which we have also seen in the Comey case and the James case, then it's generally thrown out of court because you don't get to enforce the law. Sometimes you have to do it consistently. That's why when they had Secretary Nomes, I think it was on CNN this weekend, she made a big mistake of saying, oh yeah, we pardoned the people from January 6th, but we're not going to sort of deal with the same people on the street.
Yeah, she really stepped in it there. And, you know, it's also worth noting that this weekend, there was a clip that went viral of the Philadelphia County Sheriff, Rochelle Bilal, who, you know, was probably the most direct and the most strident I've ever heard, you know, a sheriff be when it comes to ICE. They made very clear that if ICE comes to Philadelphia with the same tactics that they're using in other cities, they are going to arrest them on site. She said this standing next to the Philadelphia County District Attorney, who also spoke and backed her up. Why aren't there more local law enforcement leaders and district attorneys stepping forward with that posture?
So I think we should think about the best format for doing that in light of what we saw what happened when the people in Congress who were in the military came out and told the military not to do something that was anti-military. It can be misconstrued in some ways. And so it's best not to have it misconstrued, to just do it. We've seen this happen in New York and other places where people are stepping up and defending their citizens without making a cry from it. This sort of intellectual battle or sort of signaling is part of the downfall of the Trump administration in court. Because when you say too many things openly, you show your hand. Don't show your hand, just do what you do. In no cases will I tell you before this Trump administration were there enforcement activities in which I knew the enforcement activities would be in this area. That's not enforcement. When you say, I'm going to Chicago, I'm going to Minnesota, if you're trying to actually get people, you don't forecast where the enforcement is. After the enforcement, you say, we were here. You don't say, we're going here.
Yeah, well, you know, they are playing by their own rules, and
right. And I do think it's also politically different the areas that you're in, how blue or how red your places are. But I do find that the citizens want to hear their local government exists, because as someone who was once affiliated or a part of the Republican Party, it is disheartening to me to see Republicans who represent individuals in these states that are under the guise of the Trump administration, who are seeing people who probably voted for them also experiencing the same kind of trials and tribulations just because they're in that state. Why are they not standing up for the Constitution? Why are they not standing up for the constituents? Every person, every Republican right now is empowering the White House. If Democrats had the majority and they could do something, then I would have the same sort of smoke for them. But right now, every Republican is capable and able of passing a very simple amendment to Statute 42 to roll ICE back, to roll back their funding, to actually roll back and send a message to the White House that this is not okay in their states. It is the foundation of the Republican Party about states' rights. And everything that this government is doing right now is the antithesis of states' rights.
Earlier at the top of the show, I mentioned that billionaire Bill Ackman provided a $10,000 donation to the ICE agent who shot Renee Gold. What do you make of this? Is he signaling to other ICE agents that if you get caught up, that I'll put $10,000 on your legal defense fund. I'll put a little bit more money on it. When we come forward, Alan, I want to give you a chance to react to that, and also get your take on the anti-ICE protests that are growing across the United States as folks demand justice for Renee Good following her death. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Alan Orr when we come forward.
It's okay. I'm going to shut the door.
Ready? Yep, here we go on 3. You ready? 3, 2. Hello, it's Tavis Smiley from KBLA Talk 1580. Join the Empowerment Congress and me to kick off MLK weekend at a forum featuring the candidates running for governor. We are eager to find out what they plan to do if elected to California's top job. So join us this Saturday morning, January 17th, at the California Science Center in Expo Park. Admission is free. Doors open. I got it. All right, I'm ready. Let me close this door. I'm sorry. Here we go in 3, 2. Hello, it's 3, 2. Hello, it's Tavis Smiley from KBLA. One more time, Andy. 3, 2. Hello, it's Tavis Smiley from KBLA Talk 1580. Join the. One more time. I don't like that. 3, 2. Hello, it's Tavis Smiley from KBLA Talk 1580. Join the Empowerment Congress and me to kick off MLK weekend at a forum featuring the candidates running for governor. We are eager to find out what they plan to do if elected to California's top job. So join us this Saturday morning, January 17th, at the California Science Center in Expo Park. Admission is free. Doors open at 8 a.m. The candidate forum starts promptly at 9 a.m. Registration is required, so register right now at empowermentcongress.org or call 213-065-5258. Is there a time? You see a time on that thing? It's 5282. I'm sorry. I said 5258.
And I was gonna say, read the last line right here. Doors open at 8 a.m. The candidate forum. You kind of said it real
starts promptly at 9 a.m. Yeah, this thing says 33 seconds. That can't be no 36 seconds. This copy's more than 33 seconds. What do you think? Let's time it this time.
Okay.
All right. Hello, it's Tavis Smiley from KBLA Talk 1580. Join the Empowerment Congress and me to kick off MLK weekend at a forum featuring the candidates running for governor. We are eager to find out what they plan to do if elected to California's top job. So join us this Saturday morning, January 17th, at the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Admission is free. Doors open at 8 a.m. The forum starts promptly at 9 a.m. Registration is required, so register right now at empowermentcongress.org or call 213-065-5282.
And the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yay, yay! KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and always feel so much smarter when I'm in conversation with Alan Orr. He's our resident immigration lawyer, and we thank him for being so generous with his insights always. Alan, billionaire Bill Ackman, he's one of more than 8,000 people who've donated to this unverified GoFundMe fundraiser supporting the federal immigration agent who fatally shot Renee Good. And, you know, I've been sitting with this story this afternoon. I was thinking, like, what about this really just, feels like, it's signaling something even more than this. And it seems to me that the billionaire may be signaling to other ICE agents that if you get caught up in the law, don't worry. There are folks like me, that are going to help pay for your defense. We've seen this time and time again with folks who have, assaulted or killed unarmed people. I'm thinking of George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin, and how a lot of conservative folks, funded his legal defense fund. What do you make of Bill Ackman's $10,000 donation to this ICE agent?
So first, if he did it through the GoFundMe, that should be returned to him because it's against GoFundMe rules to support people who violated these federal laws. So that's part of the reason the GoFundMe account should be closed or already has closed. So that's to this side. The second thing is $10,000. I mean, sizable amount of money, but that's not going to change his life or protect him with some state activity. And if he gets fired, what I would like all ICE officers to hear, because we know that ICE has hired 12,000 people when they were trying to go for 10,000 in just the last couple of months, and they're getting about 45 days of training before they go on that. And many of them are Black, and some of them are also Latino. Is that after this administration, what are you going to do with your life if you're violated these rights? Because these states, the statutes will not have run, and they will come after you personally. And will these institutions be there to protect you? So sure, you might have $50,000 today, or a six-figure salary today. They pay off your student loan. But if the repercussions of that is your professional career, and if you're 30, 40 years old and your career is ended after this administration, then what are you going to do for the rest of your life? Where are you going to show your face for the rest of your life? What are you going to put on your resume for the rest of your life? And in some cases, if you're indicted and you go to jail, is it worth it? So that's sort of the repercussions of saying that. what Bill Ackman does with his, I don't check people for their money, so do what he does. People should figure out what companies he's invested in or where his wealth is touching the everyday person and avoid those situations. But sure, if he wants to give $10,000, you go where you want to go. It tells me more about you than it does about the individual. For those individuals, they need to be making informed choices. And that's what these local attorneys keep saying to them. Your liability will be longer than this administration, and we will fine you. And these things will be rectified.
I think that is such an important point. And the last person I heard make that point was JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon. There was a journalist who had asked him about why JP Morgan, wasn't contributing to the White House ballroom. And part of his response was that, the Department of Justice of the future could very well go after them, on charges of bribery and other charges as well. And so it's interesting that there are business leaders and community leaders that are looking at the long tail on this, and there are those who are not looking at the long tail and actually maybe setting up, shareholders and other interested parties in their organization for, a brutal awakening once Trump leaves office.
Well, even before he leaves office, I mean, the Trump administration is famed for throwing people under the bus and saying, I didn't know, and someone else did that, right? That is sort of the history of the Justice Department, of his last attorney generals in general. So just remember, even before, when the chips start falling, because I know he's a president that doesn't write stuff down, right? And that's part of the whole sort of phenom surrounding him, is that he doesn't make paper trail. There's no sort of phone conversation. He's going to say, this person said, or that person told me, right? That's going to be a reflection that you've seen in almost every one of the cases that's sort of been adjudicated. So people, even in the administration, should be smart. And that's why today you saw that those two attorneys in the Southern District of Virginia were fired, because they weren't going to prosecute those cases. People who have professional degrees, like myself, a lawyer, you need to protect those degrees, because after this administration, you may be losing them. We already know that there are a number of claims filed against Pam Bondi for misrepresenting facts in public, all sorts of things sort of going after her law degree and some of the other people that she's hired. So people need to make smart decisions, not just that moment decision, because a lot of this stuff is that sort of fake lottery that you think you won something. Sure, you have this $50,000 job, but then that administration ends, and then what happens to you? And that's part of what the problem is.
That is indeed a part of what the problem is. Shifting gears, just this weekend, there were a number of folks that took to the streets. At least 1,000 events across the U.S. were planned on Saturday and Sunday, according to the group Indivisible. And they called it the Ice Out for Good weekend in action. What do you make of the nationwide response to the killing of Renee Good in Minneapolis? The fact that this has really touched a nerve, this 37-year-old white woman, this 37-year-old mother of three, sitting in her car, driving away from an ICE agent, shot in the head by an ICE agent. What do you make of the reaction? Are we starting to see the tide turn and for people get mad enough to take to the streets to push back hard on what has already been happening?
So I'm a little bit changed in some ways. I think it's difficult to use older tactics in a new arena, and marching and showing up is definitely a tactic that is dated in some ways. And I definitely think the way we show up is important. I think the visibility of unrest and 1,000 marches, I'm 1,000% behind that. But what else, right? Showing up, taking a picture, holding a sign, then what else? Are you doing the community whistling? Are you participating? Are you donating? Are you having your church do something? Are you calling a congressional person? The concept of showing up for that moment and carrying a sign and marching with 1,000 people is an event, right? It's like, oh my God, I'm at the church, I'm in the moment, blah, blah, blah. So it's just like religion. It can't just be on Sunday. It has to be the way of life. And if people take this to the way of life, we're going to get real change. Are they calling the congressional people every day? Are they making sure work knows? Are they not buying the products that are supporting these ICE detention centers? Are they volunteering within the communities that are being impacted? Are they having money? Are they pushing their churches to stand on a limb? Those things are the real factors of change. as well as we gear up for the midterms election, because if people would have voted, we would not be where we are today. So we've been marching for years, and I think that it's an important sign, an indicator. But this sort of indication has been going on for quite a while. And what we need to do is to push Congress to reinstate that Congress is also an equal branch of government, to get them to do something before the presidency takes everything. We know right now that the courts, as we've discussed in this, take a long time. And there are some challenges we have with the Supreme Court, but I don't think the Supreme Court has actually fallen down the Constitution just yet. And we will see when some of those rulings come out. I think this Wednesday, we're supposed to get some more decisions. With the tariff decision comes out, and that's going to tell us a lot about where the Supreme Court and the judicial branch is right now. But Congress could do stuff today, right? Congress is the branch of government that could go in tonight and pass a bill and send it to the president tomorrow, and the president can veto it, and they can send it back and overrun it. Congress has the ability, as the first article of our Constitution, to actually do something, and we need to make sure they do something. So the marches could push us in that way, and I think that that may give them the backbone to know that whatever MAGA exists or whatever mandate they thought they had doesn't exist anymore, not to kill American citizens.
There's a 31-year-old grocery store worker in this NPR report that said, quotes, if more ICE officers are deployed in the streets, especially a place here where there's very clear public opposition to the terrorizing of our neighborhoods, I'm nervous that there's going to be more violence. I'm nervous that there are going to be more clashes with law enforcement officials. And at the end of the day, I think that's not what anyone wants. Is that what we're on the precipice of? Not just in Minneapolis, but in a number of cities across the country where thousands of people took to the streets.
Yeah, I think it is what the White House wants. I think they do want these images. I don't think the images represent what they think it was going to represent, right? It's coming across as a bloody Sunday, not as a law enforcement event, and not as removing immigrants. So the more they are throwing pregnant women to the street, pulling kids out of Target, throwing people under cars, causing disruption in the streets for individuals who've been here for 10 to 20 years, and in many cases, they're United States citizens. Over 300 United States citizens have been detained by ICE already, reported. There was a time in our country when we would say, tell you what, rather than arrest one United States citizen, we're not going to do it that way, right? Because it would arrest one United States citizen. Now we're saying, okay, we're gonna break some eggs, so let's break some eggs. And there should be legal repercussions for that. Across this country right now, there are class action lawsuits of Americans against DHS. People should Google that within their state. If you're an American citizen who has been arrested or detained by ICE, you should look and see if there's a class action in your area that you can join against the government. It's going to be very expensive to the taxpayer. It's expensive to the taxpayer to do all of this, right? Think how much it costs every day to have this much military on the street. 50, 40 people arresting some pregnant woman in a car who's been here for 10 to 20 years, who's a United States citizen, right? As well as the cost that's going to come in the repercussions of the court. This is at the same time you have the president of our country saying to Georgia, I need $6.2 million in legal defense fee for your illegal charge against me of something that I actually did, right?
Alan, in our remaining minutes with you, I want to go back to a conversation that we had last year that is still ringing in my head, and it's about the Insurrection Act. The president, on his way back to D.C. about a week ago, he was on Air Force One with Senator Lindsey Graham, and stream of consciousness, talking about a whole lot of things, principally Venezuela at the time. But one of the things he mentioned, and it was about 10 seconds, if you weren't paying attention, you might have missed it. The president said that his administration was looking for ways to use the Insurrection Act. Talk to us about how the opposition against ICE and these nationwide anti-ICE protests, how they might be a pretext for this administration's desire to employ the Insurrection Act and perhaps even suspend elections.
Yeah, so we already saw that happen in California, that they were looking to do this, and the court sort of stepped in some ways and pushed back with the National Guard. That was one test. Minnesota is the second test of seeing how we can see how this keg could actually explode in an area that's known for having these type of issues. So this is the format to empower him to use that part of it. That's why you have the governor, Tim Walz, saying, listen, I know this is what they want. Don't give them what they want so that we lose control. That's a very important conversation. And that's why it is super smart that they move to the legal system, which is definitely slower, but it plays a hand in saying, listen, here are the injustices that we see from you from a state level, from a federal level. Rather than fighting you in the streets, we're going to make this battle in court. And hopefully they're going to get a judge who's going to say, wait a minute, because you know what could happen in Minnesota? They can say, let's freeze this activity for a minute, let it calm down and investigate to see if we can go forward. That's the appropriate thing for a judge to do, to say, wait a minute, there was nothing really going on. They're not arresting a lot of people who are undocumented. It's calling out people. Let's put a hold on this, run it through the court system, and then turn it back. And that's where the Supreme Court has been giving the president a lot of leeway abroad. But let's see if the same leeway happens within the United States. And while that's happening, people need to be reaching out to the congressional people saying, this ain't going to go with us. And if they have to shut the government down again, because ICE will be funded during the time the government shut down, then shut everything down until we're able to work out our constitutional rights. Because if we have this sort of unfettered power written on sort of this narrative, then we have unjust power. And that is not safety.
It is not. It is not. It is not. Alan, where can our leaders, learners, and listeners go for, some of your go-to tips, tools, and resources as folks are doing the best they can to protect their loved ones, their community folk from the viciousness of this mass deportation campaign?
Sure. So ACLU, on your basic sort of protection rights for boycotting and petitioning and hitting the streets, ACLU has a lot of go-to sort of tell you what your rights are, what your placards are, if you're arrested. Once again, we talked about the red card if you're someone who's undocumented, to sort of speak about what your rights are in the circumstance. If you're a United States citizen and you address, like in the video we saw, and you tell them you're a U.S. citizen, that's supposed to change their purview unless there's an emergency. So once you say you're a United States citizen to an ICE officer who has no jurisdiction over a United States citizen, they should back off, right? And if they don't, there we go. We need to record some of these, keep recording and pushing those things through. On immigration in general, the American Council, the Immigration Council has a lot of information just on immigration. So you can go there and just see raw data about how asylum works, how refugee status works, what TPS is. If you are someone who's in TPS and you are losing your status, let's say Haitians are losing, 300 Haitians are losing their status on February 3rd, you need to check UCIS every day to see what happens with this litigation, because we are in court currently trying to stop that TPS from ending on February 3rd. And that's something you need to check daily as you go forward, because once the court decision is made, if you're not up on the news, it will be reflected in the UCIS website so that you can make sure you make the right arrangements in your life.
Our thanks to our resident immigration law expert, Alan Orr. If you want more information, check him out. Check out Orr Immigration Law. We really appreciate you, Alan.
Thanks so much. Have a great night.
When we come forward, David Letterman, he calls CBS a wreck under the newly installed leadership. More on that when we come forward. It's time for the quiet part out loud. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
My name is Tyrone Owens, and this is my home for 23 years that burned in the fire. Me and my wife, Charlene, we had this whole yard decorated every year.
This was the house that sparkled throughout the entire neighborhood on all the holidays. It's a community that will never be the same due to the negligence of a utility company. So I am pretty upset about that.
We were nowhere near being able to rebuild with our insurance. It's going to cost $1 million to put your house back up.
I want to get back to that point where we were before the fire. I'm starting to get emotional, but I'll work through it. LA Fire Justice has been wonderful for us. They're just caring people. We have all faith in them.
Big ups to LA Fire Justice, who's given us hope to rebuild 100%.
Advertisement. Douglas Foster, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Still battling a thirsty lawn that guzzles water and drains your wallet? Let LADWP turn that patch of grass into a gorgeous drought-smart garden for free. We're talking a full California-friendly landscape makeover designed and installed by pros at no cost to you. That's right, LADWP does the work, you get the upgrade. Ready to transform your yard and save big? Visit LADWP.com/leap. That's LADWP.com/LEAP.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. It's time for the quiet part out loud, and the individual that's out there saying the quiet part out loud today is the one and only David Letterman. David Letterman, he is calling CBS News a wreck under their newly installed leadership. The former CBS late night host has criticized his old network, calling the news division a wreck under its newly installed leadership, saying, quotes, "By the way, what about those idiots at CBS?" That's what Letterman, who's 78 years old, that's what he said in a clip that was posted to his YouTube channel on Friday from his appearance on the Barbara Gaines Show, a podcast hosted by his former executive producer. He said that CBS News is a wreck. It's just gone. He said CBS News for decades, going back to the Second World War. Before it, Ed Murrow would be broadcasting the Blitz of London from the rooftop of a building in London for CBS Radio. And it was that mentality that drove the integrity of CBS News. And he says that the integrity of CBS News, that's been trampled on. It's been pissed on and eviscerated by these idiots that have taken it over. And he went on to say, I'm at a point now where it really is hurting my feelings because I'm sick and tired of people saying, oh, wait until those midterms. He says, kids, we're far downstream of the midterms having any effect on this. Of course, the folks over at CBS didn't immediately respond to a request for a comment on Letterman's comments. Those remarks, they're coming amid some sweeping changes at CBS News in recent months, amid a finalized merger of the network's parent company, Paramount, with Skydance Media, which is founded by David Ellison. He's the son of billionaire Oracle founder Larry Ellison. And of course, there's a Trump connection to this. Okay, ready for it? In July, you might remember that Paramount reached a $16 million settlement with Donald Trump over a CBS 60 Minutes interview that aired during the 2024 presidential election, which vaulted Trump into a second presidency. And as Paramount was seeking the approval from the U.S. Federal Communications Commission for a merger, CBS announced that it was canceling The Late Show with Steve Colbert just days after the host criticized Paramount's settlement with Trump. So CBS has seemingly been investing in doing the bidding of this president, of this administration. Larry Ellison is one of the strongest supporters of President Trump, having appeared alongside him a number of times already. David Ellison is his son, who now owns Paramount. You know, they say the revolution will not be televised because there's a revolution afoot in our media that is happening right now. And the question is, how will we show up? How will we show up during this revolution? How will we support the independent media revolution? How will we use our social media platforms to promote content that is accurate, that is fact and not fiction, especially when it comes to folks making decisions that govern their everyday lives? These are all questions that need answers. And guess what? We each have a chance to answer them each and every day. When we come forward in our next hour, we're switching gears and stretching out with DeAndrea Cantrese. She's a certified confidence coach, an author, a speaker, and an anti-trafficking activist. We're going to be talking about some of the work she's been doing as founder of the Unmute the Silence Human Trafficking Awareness and Advocacy Initiative, born from her lived experience. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. 2 people suffered minor injuries after a U-Haul drove into a crowd protesting the Iranian government in Los Angeles.
And obviously, we want everybody to exercise their First Amendment right.
That's Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, who says protesters should feel safe despite the tense environment. The driver was arrested on suspicion of assault with a deadly weapon, and the investigation